Hello everyone, welcome to MPS classes. Today we are going to start the first chapter for NCERT class 11th biology. The name of this chapter is The Living World. So let's begin. As we are going to study about the living world, so first of all we should know what exactly it means to be living. What differentiates between a living thing and a non-living thing. In this lecture I am going to talk about what makes a thing living or non-living. I have listed the major criteria that makes a thing living. These criteria are growth, reproduction, metabolism, excretion, cellular organization of the body, response to stimuli, and movement and or locomotion. We will discuss these points one by one, and at the end of discussion it would be clear to you that what exactly is the meaning of being living. Let's begin with the first criteria, that is growth. Any substance that shows growth could be a living thing. Now, what exactly is growth? Growth is the increase in size or mass of a substance. Anything that shows growth can be considered as a living organism, but it is not the sole criteria for being living, because some of the things like mountains, sand dunes, etc., they also show growth, but we cannot consider them as living. For living organism, growth comes from inside, while for non-living, this growth is from outside. Non-living things grow because things will be deposited over it, mountain or sand, but for the living, the growth will come from inside because of division of cells or increase in size of the cells. So we can see that growth is a pointer for being living, but it is not the ultimate criteria that will show that a thing is living or non-living. Now let's come to the second criteria, which is reproduction. Reproduction can be defined as the production of a similar progeny or a similar organism from parent organisms. Reproduction can be done by only living organisms. Non-living things can never reproduce. A car cannot make or can another car from itself, but a horse can reproduce to make a pony. Thus, reproduction is the ultimate criteria for being living. The third criteria is metabolism. Let's see what metabolism is. Metabolism is the sum total of all types of chemical reactions that are taking place inside an organism. It can be catabolic, which means breakdown reactions, or anabolic, which means reactions that or build something. This is a very important criteria for a substance to be living. However, metabolic reactions can also occur in vitro, that is, in the laboratory outside of living organisms. Thus, we cannot take metabolism as the sole criteria for being living. Next, we come to another criteria, that is excretion. Excretion is the process through which organisms remove unwanted substances from their body, which may be harmful if not removed. Excretion is a very important criteria for a substance to be living, because all living organisms undergo metabolic reactions and waste products are produced that needs to be removed from the body. Thus, excretion becomes an important point for a substance to be living. Next is cellular organization of the body. The structure of living organisms is made up of cells, which is the structural and functional unit of all living organisms. Every living organism is made up of cells, whether it is unicellular or multicellular. In non-living things, this structural organization will not be seen. However, non-living substance that was living at some point of time may show structural organization, like a log of wood, dry leaves, fruits, etc. Thus, a structural organization of body is a very important criteria for substance to be called living, but it cannot be taken as the sole criteria for being living. Another criteria is response to stimuli. It refers to the ability of living organisms to react to changes in their internal or external environment. These changes are known as stimuli, and the organism's reaction to a specific stimulus is called the response. For when a plant bends towards the sun, the light is the stimulus and the bending movement is the response. For human beings, if they are feeling cold, they will move inside somewhere that is warm. Here, temperature is the stimulus, and movement to a warm place is the response. Every living organism shows response to stimuli, but certain mechanical devices like a refrigerator or smart appliances may also show response to stimuli, although they cannot be considered living. Thus, response to stimuli is another important criteria for being living. However, it cannot be considered as the sole criteria. The last criteria is the presence of movement or locomotion or both. Movement refers to any change in the position of a body part of an organism, while locomotion, on the other hand, specifically means the movement of the whole organism from one place to another. Example of movement include blinking of the eyelids or waving of hand, while example of locomotion include walking, running, or swimming. Movement and locomotion both are a criteria for being living. Let's take the case of plants. Plants cannot show locomotion, but they do show movement. Like in response to light as a stimuli, their branches will move towards light. However, nowadays certain non-living things can also move, like a self-driven car or robots. Thus, although a criteria, but movement and locomotion cannot be considered as the sole criteria for being living. Now we can conclude which substances can be called living and which cannot be called living. As we have seen that reproduction and excretion are the criteria that, if present, can solely conclude that a substance is living. However, the other criteria like growth, metabolism, organization of the body, response to stimuli, movement and locomotion, if present, can also point that a substance can be living. However, it cannot conclude it decisively. Let's take a small quiz. Can you guess whether these things are living or non-living? The first is a wooden log, second is grass, third is cloud, and fourth is a cat. Now let's solve for a wooden log. Let's see if a wooden log is living or non-living. A wooden log comes from plant after it has been cut from it. It shows no reproduction, no metabolism, no excretion, no response to stimuli, no movement or locomotion. Yes, it will have cellular organization because it is derived from a living thing, and it may show growth like swelling on being soaked in water. But as we have seen, growth and cellular organization cannot be taken as an ultimate criteria for being living. And the most important criteria is reproduction and excretion is not being fulfilled. Thus, we can conclude that a log of wood is non-living. Grass shows all the criteria from growth, reproduction, metabolism, excretion, organization into cells, response to stimuli, and movement, but not locomotion since plants cannot move. Thus, it fulfills all the criteria for being a living thing. Now, let's consider cloud. It is very interesting to note that clouds can show growth by increasing in size, but as I have already mentioned, it is not a final criteria for being living. It does not show other criteria like reproduction. A cloud cannot make exactly a replica on its own. It can divide into two parts, but the part that will be produced by the parent cloud will not be exactly similar to the parent itself, so we cannot call it reproduction. Cloud also shows no excretion, no cellular organization of the body, and no response to stimuli. It can show movement because of movement of particles within it and locomotion too, but does not fulfill most of the criteria like reproduction, metabolism, excretion, cellular organization, and response to stimuli. So we cannot call it an organism. Thus, cloud is a non-living thing. Next is a cat. Cat fulfills every criteria for being living, that is, growth, reproduction, metabolism, excretion, cellular organization, response to stimuli, movement, as well as locomotion. Thus, cat is a living organism. Thank you very much friends for watching my video. Please support my channel. Do like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much.